Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of the Rising Tide Leadership Podcast, where we aim to give you critical and easily applicable leadership concepts to help you along your journey. I'm your co-host, Scott, and I have the privilege of talking about life and leadership with the owner and founder of Rising Tide Leadership, Dr. Michael David Morales, aka Mo.
What's up, Scotty? Good to be here, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, Mo, I don't know if you know this, but the Olympics are going on right now. And, somewhat of a big deal. But it fits perfectly, really, with the theme of today's episode, because I have an Olympic story to tell you, and I know we have a few others to talk about today as well. So everybody knows Simone Biles. Well, maybe not everybody, but most everybody, I should say, knows Simone Biles.
Unless you're living under a rock at this point, you should know she.
Exactly. But one thing that people probably have forgotten, since we're now in a different time, is that she actually attempted, I should say, to compete in the Olympics back when they were in Tokyo back in 2021. And she ended up flying across there. She practiced and she actually competed, but then withdrew after her first vault due to medical reasons. And you just have to think about that. This is just this amazing athlete. Everybody was just saying like, hey, you're going to win a gold medal. Like, it's a shoo-in. Nobody can compete with you. She does this crazy move on floor routine that not even most guys can do. I don't even remember what it's called, but I think it's like a double pike or something. It's insane when she does it. I tried once and I almost died. I'm just kidding. But anyway, when she withdrew from those Tokyo Games, there were a lot of people that were not really agreeing with her for that decision. They kind of said that would be it for her, that this would kind of end her career, that she wouldn't be able to come back. But lo and behold, we look at the Olympics this year, and especially because the team competition is already finished, that Biles ended up proving them all wrong. So she worked incredibly hard, and she got the coaching that she needed and persevered to get to the point that she's at today, and competing where she is today. And she is, again, absolutely crushing it at the Olympics this year. So Team USA, gold medal, love it. And she's even battling through some injuries, which speaks to the level of maturity and the level of growth that she's experienced just from Tokyo to now. And really the challenges that she's had to overcome, both physical and mental, speak to the true power of perseverance, and which kind of leads us straight into our first point of today. So Mo, I know we've got a couple stories to cover, a couple points to cover. So let's have you go ahead and take it away.
Absolutely. That's a great opening, Scotty. I remember that. And I'm a huge Simone Biles fan, a huge Team USA fan, obviously. And so let's talk about perseverance. And Scott, today's first main point is this: the power of perseverance. I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? And so to talk about another older Olympian, Jesse Owens, back in the 30s, legendary athlete who competed in the 1936 Berlin Olympics, right? And despite facing significant racial discrimination, adversity, Owens persevered and he won 4 gold medals. And this story really teaches us that true leaders overcome challenges and discrimination, and they're resilient. Leaders should embrace obstacles as opportunities to grow stronger and improve their capabilities. And Jesse Owens was not just a competitor, but he was a leader. He was a leader of the team. He was a leader of men. And in his book, in a book about Jesse Owens called Triumph, The Untold Story of Jesse Owens and Hitler's Olympics, it contains a lot of information that you wouldn't otherwise hear in everyday sports conversation. And it's a great read, Scott. And so we have a link in our show notes to that book, and you really should pick it up. It's a fun read. You'll just read it, especially with the Olympics going on, and think, man, now I know why I am cheering for my teams in the USA. But let's just kind of break down, Scott, some of the things that Jesse Owens went through. He went through a ton of racial discrimination. You got to remember segregation at that time in the United States. Jesse Owens grew up in a deeply segregated America where Black people were subjected to systematic racism, limited opportunities. But despite all of that, he knew that he had to train, even though he had to train a lot of times in separate facilities all the way up to and through college and into the Olympics. And so during his college life, and he went to the Ohio State University, Jesse Owens, he wasn't even allowed, Scott, did you know this? He wasn't allowed to live on campus with the other white students. And so he could eat at the same restaurants. He couldn't stay at the same hotels. It was crazy. But Scott, he overcame that discrimination. Another thing that Jesse Owens faced was financial hardships. You can imagine poverty in that time during the USA, white, black, whatever. But Jesse Owens came from a very poor family. He worked a ton of jobs to support himself and his family. He balanced work, academics, athletics, and these were all a significant challenge. He did have a little bit of sponsorship and support. And so, unlike many of his white contemporaries, Owens lacked financial sponsorship for that support, and it made it harder for him to focus solely on training and competition. He always had to have a job. And can you imagine that? Most of our college athletes today, and I've been a collegiate coach for years now, and I'm always telling my student athletes, you really just need to focus on what you're doing for us in the pool, because it takes a lot of time. Jesse Owens couldn't do that, but he did. He worked through that anyway. Scott, he also had health issues. And Jesse Owens suffered from bronchial issues, and he had pneumonia during his childhood, and it really messed with the way that he could breathe and his overall health in his athletic career. But, Scott, let me talk about the 1936 Olympics for Jesse Owens. Those 1936 Berlin Olympics were held in Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler's regime, which promoted Aryan racial superiority. So Owens participated knowing that this was a direct challenge to those racist ideologies. And talk about pressure, talk about hostility. Jesse Owens faced immense pressure to perform well, not just for himself, but as a symbolic figure against racism. Scott, he did a great job. He was also subjected to hostility and racial slurs, both from competitors and the audience. But, of course, it has a great ending, Scott. After the Olympics, there were limited opportunities for Jesse Owens. His Olympic success really didn't translate into stable employment, and he went through a lot of things and a lot of hardships, he and his family. He never really, Scott, got the recognition that he deserved for that time. And so, for instance, he wasn't even invited to the White House or receiving the accolades from President Franklin D. Roosevelt at the time, who was really kind of in front of those Olympics as our president. So, Scott, all of these things Jesse Owens went through, we usually just see Jesse Owens on the cover of a book, on a poster, and we're inspired by him. But we have to remember that great competitors, great leaders are always facing adversity. But Scott, Jesse Owens had perseverance, and that's why I really love his story.
Yeah, I would say that's what a sneak peek, but I feel like that was a big peek into Jesse Owens. But for all our listeners, you should still get the book. It is a great book. It's a great read, and we may have talked a lot about him, but we definitely have not given you everything. But overall,
Absolutely,
he's really just truly someone who needed to overcome a lot in life and his Olympic career. And
right.
It's just amazing. Like, it really is just the perseverance, because it's so easy to give up. So easy.
It is.
So easy. And he just, gosh, that's crazy. So moving on to our second point, we want to talk about overcoming adversity. So Mo, we're sticking with that Olympics. So who comes to mind when you think of an Olympian who maybe triumphed over adversity?
Yeah, so this one a lot of people may not have heard of, but Wilma Rudolph is a perfect example of someone who overcame adversity. And she overcame polio as a child. And she went on to become the first American woman to win 3 gold medals in the State Olympics. And this was at the 1960 Rome Games. Rudolph's journey from a young girl with a debilitating disease to an Olympic champion is a powerful reminder, Scott, that adversity can be conquered with tenacity and an unyielding spirit. Leaders can learn to push through their own hardships and inspire their teams to do the same. So, Scott, Wilma Rudolph's journey to becoming an Olympic champion is a story of remarkable perseverance by any stretch of the imagination and by any measure. And here's some of the key struggles that she overcame. Scott, feel free to jump in and ask questions, but I'm just going to go. And so here you go. Wilma Rudolph, like I said, had polio when she was a kid. At the age of 4, she contracted polio. And this is a debilitating disease, Scott. You are in athletic training. You know what that can do, not just to an athlete, but to a person in general. Oh, yeah. And so this left her with a twisted leg and foot. So doctors doubted she would ever even walk again without braces. Okay, then that wasn't it. She also had scarlet fever and pneumonia. In addition to polio, she suffered from both the scarlet fever and the pneumonia, and this complicated her health issues. So when you're going through something like that, think about the rehabilitation.
Mm.
The braces that Wilma Rudolph had to wear until she was 9 years old. It was excruciating just to even get around. Her family provided her with daily massages, physical therapy stuff. It was a team effort by all extents of what it took to make her better. But she had determination to run. Despite those early struggles, Wilma Rudolph was determined to run. She worked tirelessly to strengthen her legs, practicing running, and eventually joining her school's basketball and track team. And of course, those weren't the only things that she had overcome adversity for, Scott. She was in poverty. She grew up in a large, poor family in Tennessee. Her parents worked multiple jobs to support, get this, 22 children. And the family had to face, obviously, the hardships, right? And also growing up.
I have one child, and yeah, 22. I can't imagine that.
Hey, 1 down, 21 to go, right? There you go. So
I won't tell my wife.
yeah, don't talk. Growing up, thinking to serve herself, faced systematic racism, limited opportunities. She had to overcome these racial barriers, not just in her personal life, but also her athletic life. And so, what were the athletic challenges that Rudolph had? Well, as a Black female athlete, she had fewer resources and support than her white counterparts did. She had to work with limited facilities and, again, had to train in challenging conditions. She also faced tough competition throughout her career, and she had a ton of injuries. But her determination to succeed, despite all of these setbacks, was a testament to her resilience. And so, Scott, as we talk about the 1960 Rome Olympics, by the time of 1960 and when the Olympics came around, she was world class. Rudolph was an athlete that had high expectations from herself and for herself. The pressure to perform was immense, especially to be seen as a symbol of hope and inspiration. But she maintained her composure and focused on her performance despite the pressure. Her confidence and mental toughness were crucial in her success. And so what were her achievements and her legacy? Well, at the 1960 Rome Olympics, Rudolph became the first American woman to win 3 gold medals in track and field during a single Olympics Games. She won the 100 meters, the 200 meters, and a 4x100 meters relay. And her success transcended sports. Her achievements helped pave the way for future generations for female athletes. And Scott, we need to look at Wilma Rudolph as somebody who, after the games, worked tirelessly to ensure that her legacy included not just her own accolades, Scott, but helping others, particularly young athletes facing similar struggles. And that's what it means to overcome adversity.
Yeah, 100%. The thing that popped in my head as you're talking through kind of her life is when you think about all of the rehab and all of the physical therapy and if you know anything about that, it's never just smooth sailing. It's never a straight line from point A to point B. It's always you're doing well and then you're doing terrible. Then you're doing well, then you plateau. And it can be a really long journey, especially for someone with polio, especially to get to the level of competing at the Olympics versus I'm just trying to walk out my front door. That whole process is just so different. So just the adversity that she had to overcome, just absolutely astounding, really. And so kind of morphing that really into our third point for today, and it concerns a commitment to excellence, which really we could use the two people we've already, Jesse Owens and Wilma Rudolph already to talk about that again. But I know we got someone new. So which Olympian best illustrates that commitment to excellence?
Yeah, well, when I think about Olympic athletes and the commitment to excellence, and maybe this is because I'm a swimming and diving coach, so maybe I'm a little bit skewed one way or the other, but Michael Phelps is the shining example of a commitment to excellence. With a record 23 gold medals, his success is a testament to years of hard work, discipline, relentless pursuit of perfection. Phelps' dedication to his training regimen and his ability to perform under pressure highlights the importance of continuous improvement and setting high standards. Leaders can draw from his example to cultivate a culture of excellence within their own organizations.
So then what kind of makes him stand out so vividly? Because you could essentially argue that all Olympians train hard and want to be great. So what what really sets Phelps apart?
Yeah, from talking about Simone Biles to Jesse Owens and Wilma Rudolph, Michael Phelps, they're all Olympians. They've all put in the time. They've all had a commitment to excellence. And so let me just give our audience 2 quick points regarding Phelps and why he stands out. And here's the first one. Phelps has an unmatched work ethic and a training regimen. Well, he did when he was competing. Michael Phelps for his intense and disciplined training schedule. He trained every day, including holidays, without training breaks for years on end, which allowed him to maintain peak physical condition and continually improve his performance. Phelps often trained twice a day, totaling up to 5-6 hours in the pool, then additional time spent on strength and conditioning. His dedication to relentless practice and pushing his limits set apart from an extraordinary athlete. And so the question I would have for our leaders is, what are you doing different and more to set yourself apart? When everybody else goes home, what are you doing to have an unmatched work ethic and a training regimen as a leader? Second point is this, Scott. Phelps had a focus on continuous improvement and innovation. Phelps consistently sought ways to enhance his performance, from refining his technique to adopting innovative training methods. He worked closely with his coach, Bob Bauman, to analyze the perfect aspect of every part of his swimming. Phelps also incorporated advanced recovery techniques and paid meticulous attention to his diet and mental preparation. His commitment to continuous improvement and willingness to embrace new strategies exemplified his pursuit of excellence and contributed to his record-breaking success. And Scott, you as someone who is in the dietary world and as an athletic trainer and knowing what it takes to have peak performance for these athletes, you know how hard that is. Phelps was a master at this. In fact, I loved the story where he loves Chinese food, but he wouldn't eat Chinese food. He wouldn't eat McDonald's. He wouldn't eat anything until the Olympics were over. And then he said, man, I earned this. And you know, Scott, he earned every bit of it. So I love talking about Michael Phelps, one of my favorite examples of a commitment to excellence.
Oh, 100%. I feel like the one thing that stands out that, maybe people don't know the exact number of medals, but everybody knows that he ate like 12,000 calories a day. Like,
yeah,
you talk to anybody and you're like, Michael trained, they're like, oh yeah, he ate 12,000 calories a day. And if you can Google what he would eat in a day, and, under the supervision of a doctor, I would recommend you try it to our listeners. I mean, I'm not telling you to try it, but it's just so much food. And just the fact that he had to do that in order to just sustain the level of excellence that he was trying to achieve and compete at is just, man.
Yeah, and if I could say something about that, Scott, there is one of Michael Phelps's, I believe, favorite diners in Baltimore where he used to train, and he would go and he would eat those 12,000 calories. There's the Michael Phelps challenge where you can actually order what he ordered, and you can try to eat it all. And they have like multiple college guys would go and try to, as a team, eat what Michael Phelps ate every day, and they would try to do it. But you're right, it's an impossibility unless you are at peak performance and you are dedicated. So, hey, I'm dedicated to eating, but I really shouldn't be eating that many calories because I'm just trying to get 12,000 calories. I'm just trying to get 12,000 steps in a day.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. I just can't imagine. And so, gosh, just thinking back to Phelps and Rudolph and Owens and starting off with Biles, I mean, these stories are inspiring, and there's so many just from the Olympics and just former Olympians, current Olympians, and just as we watch the Olympics in Paris, what kind of final advice or final thoughts do you have for our leaders who kind of want to start to incorporate these lessons into their leadership practices? Because maybe they're not trying to go to LA 2028.
Yeah. Scott, I think that's a great question, and I love final thoughts. And here's my final thoughts today. And it's really kind of ending with the way that you began with Simone Biles, taking care of her mental health and just the physical things, all the stuff that she was going that caused her to step away at the last Olympics. And my advice would be for our listeners would be this. My advice is to watch these athletes, not just for their performances on the field, in the pool, on the court, wherever, but also for their stories behind their success. Reflect on their perseverance, their ability to overcome adversity, and their commitment to excellence. Remember, all of these athletes, when they stand up on the podium, or even if they just make it to the Olympics, they have done something that very few have ever gotten to do. And so that takes a lot. That takes a lot of perseverance. And for leaders out there, that's the kind of leader that you want to be. You want to be a leader that goes above and beyond. You want to read more, listen more, associate with the right people more. And the way that we do this is to take inspiration from people like these athletes that we love to see compete. But Scott, I just love their stories. I love to hear about the things that have made them great, the people in their life that helped get them there. I love talking about their successes, but sometimes I love reading about their failures and their setbacks on the way, because isn't that what it's all about? And leaders, that's what it's all about for us. It doesn't matter what you are going through, the setbacks that you face on the way to success. Always persevere. Have that Olympic kind of perseverance, and believe me, you're going to love it, and your team's going to thank you for putting in the extra time.
Man, what a note to end on for today. Goodness gracious. Well, everybody, we hope you join us next time as we continue to explore more leadership topics that'll help you thrive. Remember, your focus on well-being isn't just for the benefit of your team. It's vital for the success and sustainability of your organization. Make sure, if you enjoyed listening today, we encourage you to rate, review, and subscribe, and don't forget to share. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you next time, and go Team USA.
Go Team USA.